Hello, everyone. I'm excited to welcome all of you to a practical discussion on the new ISO standards for innovation. Instead of an academic discussion, today we're going to focus on very practical, real-world topics and generating ROI, return on innovation. I'm delighted to be hosting a real panel of rock stars here. We're not going to do introductions. Please take a look at their bios. They're on ioip.org. They're on LinkedIn. If we went through their long list of accomplishments, it would take up half the session. So please take a look at them online. On behalf of the IOIP board and membership, we are so excited that ISO has taken on innovation for a measurable global standard. This adds fuel and credibility to the practice and the titles of those in innovation. Having an ISO standard drives home IOIP's long-held belief that well-applied innovation science can change the world and drive a greater good globally. Our panel today is made up of some of the top global experts in this space, but we've asked them to give us a very practical bent, to answer a few questions, to help educate on how we all might get more involved, our organizations and as individuals. Our goal today is to speak in layman's terms and convey a practical knowledge of three things you can apply in your organization and in your life today. Those three things are: what are the ISO innovation standards? Why are they important to me and to my organization? And what can I do to learn more and get more involved? We're going to host this panel in a talk show style, starting with Dr. Brett Trusco, the CEO and founder of IAOIP and the Secretariat for the United States ISO Technical Advisory Group. So Brett, what is ISO and why do global standards matter to business, to government, to academia?
Well, I think I can tell a little story about that probably anyone can relate to. And that is that if you're a parent at all, or even an auntie or an uncle or something, you've probably at some point coached a sports team of a little bunch of little kids. And when you sign up for coaching, you think that, oh, this is easy. I'm just going to go out there. Let's take soccer. In my case, when my kids were young, I signed up to coach soccer. I didn't know the rules. I just thought I'd go out there, the kids would kick it around. And then as soon as the parents started yelling, that was an offsides, I had to figure out what an offsides was. And I had to figure out, how to coach these kids, what the rules were, what the training methods were. Well, probably everyone did it their own way. And you could, after a while, after a few years, you could see the better coaches start to come out, the people who understood the game, understood the players and how it worked. Well, in innovation, one of the things we're stuck with right now is that essentially we don't have the rules and we don't have the training methods. So if you go on the internet, you'll find hundreds or thousands of people who can come to your company and teach you about innovation. Now, the problem is, of course, they're all teaching you the way that they understand it to be. So imagine going out and coaching a bunch of little league soccer players and every one of them playing by a different set of rules. The game can't be played. Of course, you could play the game, but you might have to reinvent the rules or re-explain them to the kids after they do one thing or the other. So what we really want to do with the ISO standards is say, 80% of innovation is probably rote. There's a lot of tools that we've used in Six Sigma and project management that we also use in innovation. So let's figure out what those things are, how we use them. And most importantly, let's figure out how to establish a an innovation management system. And once we establish that system, then we can free up, instead of our employees spending, hundreds of hours just trying to communicate what's going on in innovation. Now they're able to take 80% of it, drop it into an innovation management system, an intellectual property system, et cetera, and they can actually start being creative immediately. I like to tell people that in innovation, there is a secret sauce, and that's about 20% of the process, whereas about 80% of it is things that you can establish, you can do over and over again, and those would be the rules, those would be the training methods, those would be the things that everybody can agree on. So that's what we work on in innovation with the innovation management standard. So now we'll get to the practical real world. The practical real world is that when people go out and talk to managers, they basically say, innovation was more complex than I thought it was. Just like when I was coaching those little kids. I found out that it wasn't just about throwing a few balls on the field and watching the kids kick it around. You actually have to come up with training methods and teach them how to pass and how to do this and that. Well, that's what, from the business perspective, that's what we get back to is it's more complex. There is a lot of things that go into innovation, a lot of interactions between different departments, outside people, et cetera. So the other thing is the benchmarks. Now, once again, if you go back to scoring, I know we don't keep score anymore with the little kids, but there's always people who keep score. If you don't keep score, you don't know how you're doing. So establishing benchmarks is critical. And finally, let me just tell you that so far, this organization, the ISO 279 tag, started in 2013. And I personally have been at most of the meetings since 2013, which is really amazing. By the way, if you want to join the tag, I highly recommend it. The tag meetings are in typically really nice places like Spain and France and Italy and even the United States periodically in South America. But what we've passed is ISO 56000, that's 56000, which is terminologies and definitions. 56002, 56002, which is the Innovation Management Systems Guidance. This is the most important one. ISO 56003, which is partnerships. If you are working with outside partners, I highly recommend you do this because it gets you and your partners on the same team or on the same page. So going back to that coaching story is now the other team also understands the rules. We understand the rules, they understand the rules. Everybody can play by the same rules and you can go out on the field and start playing immediately. You don't have to discuss the rules beforehand. 56004 is Innovation Management Assessment. And yesterday we voted, although I can't tell you what we did, on ISO 56005, which is Intellectual Property Management. And that standard should be available late this year, early into next year. So that's why this is all important. And I really feel passionate about it, that we quit wasting our time spending our wheels in innovation and we start doing real innovation and get past the mundane and the rote processes.
Excellent. Thank you. Good story there. So Steve, as co-chair of the IAOIP accreditation and certification committees, what should I do to be ready for the innovation standards as an individual professional and as part of my company or organization?
Sure. Hi, Kirsten. Thanks for having me. So I think the easy one to start with is really the individual side of things, right? Because then you're only looking at yourself. You're not trying to manage that soccer club. You're trying to manage that soccer player, right? So to do that, it's really all about where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself managing innovation at the organizational level or at the enterprise level? Do you see yourself managing innovation at the team level, helping drive and structure a team to bring new ideas forward? Or do you see yourself being an innovator? And I say that because there are slight differences there. When you look at the enterprise level, you get into the rules and the procedures and the methods in the scorecard that Brett was talking about. You also dig into a little bit of the communication. So you're not just kicking the ball around the field, but you're trying to tell your players where the ball is going or who it's going to or ways to attack. If you're looking at the project team, you need to understand where your team fits in, how they involve themselves with the large organization and kind of where their niche is, if you will. And then if you're looking at an innovator, then you need to dig into specific technology skill sets and really get sharp there. At the organizational level, what I would recommend is starting out with your policies and trying to gather as much doctrine as you can. What that policy and what the doctrine is going to do is it's going to eventually drive investments, right? It's going to identify where you need to go. Once you understand what your policy and your mission is, You can then start to look at gaps. Where is your organization currently weak, and your strengths. So where are your core competencies? What can you manage, or what can you leverage today to drive those future innovations in the future, right? How can you give yourself the strongest footing possible to launch some new idea? And then really the last thing that I want you to consider is to really have a serious conversation with yourself about how long is your position defensible? Because that's going to also identify the amount of money that you need to invest. It's going to identify urgency. I mean, it's easy to say that everybody, that innovation is always urgent, right? You always need to go out and be investing. But it's it's a lot easier to identify that urgency if your position is really only defensible over the near term, and you have some larger players coming into your space pretty much immediately.
Excellent. Thank you. That is fabulous practical advice for us. So Harlan, as the chair of IOIP's Board of Advisors, and guys, just real quickly, IOIP has a board of directors, but in an effort to really bring in input from across the globe, we pull from membership in 100 different countries, about 4,000 members. So we have a board of advisors, and their role is to bring in the voice of members from all over the world. And Harlan is the new chair. So Harlan, what is IOIP's role in the generation of these standards? And if I wanted to, how could I get involved in the standards effort?
Sure. So IOIP is involved in almost all of the aspects of these standards. As Brett mentioned, he's the secretariat of the standards. So finding those people responsible, those professionals, those experts here in the United States, they're charged with finding that talent, those people who can contribute to that knowledge. In terms of just overall, IOIP has their Global Innovation Sciences Handbook. They've been out there leading the way in terms of just the knowledge that is important and pertinent to the innovation management profession, as well as innovation sciences across the board. But if you're looking to really get involved with this activity, if you're an expert, we would love to see additional experts in the United States from healthcare, finance, all across all different markets to be involved in the development of the actual standards themselves, because we could always use experts and additional insights in different markets. If you're looking from just an IOIP perspective specifically, Steve mentioned, or Steve is the chair of the certifications committee. So there are places where they're going to need help developing new certifications. There's going to be places where they're going to be refining their certifications. So those are places where people can get involved and to help out. There's chapters. There's chapters all around the globe. And I think Don will speak a little bit more about the specifics around some of that. But, you can always get involved with the chapter if you're just looking to learn more about innovation science. But if you are an expert, if you're somebody that's knowledgeable, if you're somebody that's trying to expand their knowledge and now start to help teach and really share that knowledge with others, you can come to those chapters and share your experiences with chapter members. You could come to the IOIP and show some of your thought leadership through blogs and webinars, different forums there. So there's 1,000 different ways for you to get involved with ISO, with the standards, or IOIP. And all you need to do is reach out to any of the experts here, or even any of the ones that you see on the IOIP site that are involved in any of these initiatives.
Harlan, thank you so much for bringing up the certification committee, because we need people. We're currently looking for volunteers. We've identified some of the subcommittees that we're going to be establishing, and we need good people to chair those and help us set directions for some of that stuff. It's been a very engaging core, and a lot of people have some really good ideas. So if you have them, we would love to hear them, and we'd love to share where we're taking this committee as well.
Steve, thanks for taking the leadership on that. What's been really interesting from a global perspective is if we tapped Brett and asked him about who's involved in these ISO standards, all different kinds, but especially innovation, the US needs more representation for a lot of reasons, a lot of competitive reasons across all industries. So we are seeing governments across the world start to adopt these. We're seeing major government contractors adopt these. These standards and your engagement are going to drive the future. So we can either help drive it and create it, or we can sit around and whine about what we don't like. So I would take your call to action there, Steve, on getting involved. Very cool. Harlan, thank you for that.
If I might add also, the committees that develop the standards at IOIP inform the ISO 279 committee. So if your company won't support it, because it is a bit of a financial and a time commitment, that's okay, because if you do spend time working with the certification committees, developing the body of knowledge, that indirectly or directly flows all the way up to ISO.
Excellent point. So Dawn is the head of innovation for the Atlanta Airport and years on the IOIP board, and thank you for that. As an innovation practitioner, what do I do if I want to become part of an innovation community, locally, nationally, globally? What do you think?
Well, it starts, thank you, Kirsten and Brett, for having me today. But it starts right here, the International Association for Innovation Professionals. Join us. You hear about the standards, you hear about ISO and certifications, you hear the verticals and the horizontals, specific industries, or looking at process innovation or product innovation. It all starts here. We're a global organization, Kirsten, as you mentioned, in 100 countries. So if you want to engage internationally, but also at your national level or even a local chapter, there's opportunity there. We have nearly 4,000 members where you can engage if you're a CIO, as an innovation officer myself, and you're looking for peers where you understand industry trends or best practices, if you're looking for standards or tools or methodologies, or most importantly, if you're looking for the camaraderie of a peer, that experience, you want to share your insight and gain insight from others, this is the opportunity. If you're an executive in another area, but innovation impacts what you do, again, here's an opportunity to understand the best practices, where the industry is moving, and gain that perspective and insight. If you're a practitioner and you want to learn more, you want to advance in your career, you see this as an opportunity of the future. You want to understand how innovation and technology and the processes and the rules and regulations, or even how policies will influence the work that you do. It's an opportunity to learn. We have webinars through the association where you can engage in a myriad of different topics to learn. And many of those webinars, if not all, Brett, correct me if I'm wrong, are free and available to paid membership. So that is a wonderful opportunity to advance your own education. And again, Steve mentioned the certification. You can become a certified innovation professional. And then even as a contractor, as we start to see federal agencies show more interest in the work that the association is doing, the standards and the certification, there may be one day where this is required for contractors to have certifications within their organization, or individuals that are certified to be able to bid on some of those contracts. And if you're a professor or a student like me, I'm working on my doctorate, and you want to learn more, you want to tap into just from understanding what's happening and to engage in research. We have a plethora of professors that are engaged in leading courses and classes and lectures on various topics. It's another community that you can participate in. And so I would encourage you, if you are not currently a member, to join. Explore. You can ask any of us questions about our own experience. And again, if you're looking for those standards, the tools, the methods, the trends, where the industry is moving to, and again, most importantly, if you're looking for that camaraderie of peers across all levels, across all verticals, this is the place to do it. So I welcome you.
That is fabulous. So guys, we're getting to the end of our session and there were so many good points. Please re-listen, you'll pick up more of them. But just to grab a couple of highlights from our panel, Brett, you gave us an analogy of coaching little kids in soccer as a parallel to ISO standards to bring together teams so everybody has the base rules. You can innovate off of that, but you need to have the base rules and all be on the same page to really speed innovation and drive that ROI. Steve, loved how you gave us a view of how to benefit by looking at what kinds of role you might have now, your company might have, especially taking a look at your own defensible position and applying that to some of the innovation things we're talking about. Harlan, you taught us about how to get involved now in the innovation standards, and then also how to leverage your expertise in some of these groups, these workshops, working groups, to help educate others. And then Steve, you reminded us about the certification committee and how even if you're not part of the ISO tag, being part of the certification committee can really help to fuel as these standards come about. And then Dawn, you shared ways that any of us as an individual can become part of an innovation community. You talked about education, certifications, webinars, books, podcasts. One of the key things we hear a lot is innovation is lonely. So many innovation leaders and practitioners in their communities at work are saying, I want peers, I need somebody to talk to, I need to commiserate or brainstorm, what have you. That's one of the most wonderful things about this organization is its peers, and you can choose to connect with peers in your own industry, or it's really interesting to connect with those in other industries. Things you might not have thought of come about from others. That's been wonderful. And then Dawn, you taught us about some of the benefits as an executive, as a manager, a leader, an employee, an academic, a student. So thank you all. Those of you who are listening, thank you for your time. Thank you to our rock star set of panelists. And if anybody would like a more detailed, lots of slides, academic view, we also have that view. Just go back onto the website and look under ISO and you'll see that more academic view. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for your engagement and have a wonderful rest of your day, night, whatever time it is where you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.